And welcome to Netflix and Kill. Oh my goodness, it is King of the Monsters edition over here, and while I feel like I'm the Rodan of this piece because I flitter and fly away, and I'm also look kind of like a lizard face. That's me, Nick Gunmerk with a mic. And let's go to my personal own Mothra to my left.
Travis?
Yes, the god of the pod himself. Oh no, that makes you King Ghidorah, that's right.
Good, that's much better.
You're the space god. Dragon.
Awesome.
Also maybe robot.
Sometimes.
I don't know. I'll tell you what. Ghidorah always confused me. But you know who doesn't confuse me? I mean, on the best of days. Why? It's our friend of the pod. We met him down in Austin. He's a great comic book artist. Draws Godzilla himself. Matt Frank. Matt, say hi.
Hey guys, I should have led with a hi Matt joke, but I do that enough as it is. Actually, no, that's my wife's shtick. She does that, so I don't want to steal her thunder. But
that's great, and no one's ever made that joke on a podcast before.
Nobody's ever made that joke before,
ever for sure.
I'm sure we've made this joke about that joke before.
Yes, exactly.
So it's just getting cyclical at this point.
It's jokeception, which means it's overrated, confuses you, and has nice visuals.
Man, shots fired at Christopher Nolan.
Just kidding. I kind of like that movie. Anyway, so yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on here.
Of course, Matt. And for those of you listening, we will be having Matt on for our interview we recorded with him down in Austin this week. So if you like this episode, come by to our regular episode of the UGO podcast for some more Matt this Saturday.
So it's a double matinee.
It's a double you know, you put the work in for it. I'll give it for you that one.
I'm gonna renegotiate my contract here. Anyway, yeah, totally.
So Matt, I'm glad you got to join us for this. Because if I knew if I needed a Godzilla expert, you were definitely the one to call. It's weird that I had to summon you via this weird dragon dagger. I don't know why that had to work. Also, how does it make a guitar riff? It's a flute, right?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, but no, totally. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Excited.
So, Matt, what film exactly are we talking about today? And we were talking about Godzilla, but what film in particular are we discussing today?
So today we are talking about episode 2 of the Netflix Godzilla animated series. Episode 1 was titled Planet of the Monsters. Now, I say episode and I say series, but what these are a trilogy of feature-length films produced by Toho Animation, Polygon Pictures, and Netflix. They have theatrical releases first in Japan, and then a few months later are released on Netflix worldwide. The basic setup here is that this is a sort of a post-apocalyptic Godzilla film. I assume a lot of people are familiar with the basic Godzilla setup. Giant monsters stomping through major metropolitan cities, man's hubris, yada, yada, yada. But in this context, they hired Gen Urobuchi to write a sort of a deconstruction. I know I'm using the D word, but a different take on the Godzilla mythos, specifically that this takes place in the far future. 20,000 years, just about. 20,000 years is some change, give or take. But yeah, and so humanity, along with the help of a couple of other races, have decided that, yeah, Earth kind of sucks now because it's got monsters running around. And so they abandoned Earth, or as many of them as they could abandoned Earth to search for a new world. That didn't shake out, so they went back to Earth because one character in particular, Haruo, who has a personal grudge against Godzilla, had a plan.
Boy, does he?
Yeah, well, yeah. We've described him on my podcast as a chip looking for a shoulder, and yeah. So they go back to Earth. This plan to kill Godzilla that doesn't exactly shake out either. I assume since we're talking about the second episode, the locks are off as far as spoilers are concerned for the first episode. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Yes. We've already covered the first episode on a previous Netflix and Kill.
Okay, good.
Did we?
We did. No, wait. Oh man, we do this way too much now.
I don't
That's
think
okay.
we did.
Did we talk about it on the regular show?
Maybe.
Man, we definitely talked about it on mic. I don't know where, but I'm going to look this up.
Are you sure it was being recorded on mic, though?
I don't remember.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's okay.
But yeah, spoilers for episode 1. Warning for that one. If you haven't watched episode 1, you might want to stop the podcast and go do that.
Yes.
But otherwise, Matt, continue.
Okay, so basically in episode 1, they found Godzilla. They fought Godzilla, and they killed Godzilla. And I remember I saw this in the theater in Tokyo when it came out, and I was just didn't understand the look of it, but I was like, oh, they just killed Godzilla? Like, I remember looking at my friends thinking, like, did this happen? And then, of course, what we did come to find out is the Godzilla they killed was not the original Godzilla. It was an offshoot of some kind, like a second Godzilla or an offspring or something. Mm-hmm. The real Godzilla arises, and it is the largest Godzilla ever put to film. It's he's over 300 meters tall, which means he is almost 3 times as big as the legendary Godzilla, which makes him, I believe, over 1,000 feet. And he is basically part of the Earth itself. He's just basically an all-powerful deity at this point.
Godzilla's pretty swole in this one. I'll tell you what.
He's that fat fit.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2 picks up pretty much immediately where the last one left off, where the characters were defeated by Godzilla pretty soundly, and now they're having to regroup and figure out what do we do? Can we even stop something that big? They discovered that they may have a possibility. They may be able to do that because eventually the characters discover the site of Mechagodzilla's demise. Because in this continuity, there was a Mechagodzilla that was created by one of the semi-friendly alien races. And unfortunately, the Mechagodzilla was destroyed by Godzilla. But this Mechagodzilla was created using nanometal, which is sort of a living, learning, adapting metal. And over 20,000 years, the nanometal had basically created its own Mechagodzilla city.
It's a very different, interesting take on Mechagodzilla.
Also, that's fucking slow, don't you think? 20,000 years and it makes a city?
Well, I mean, it had to contend with all the Godzilla planet shit.
Okay.
Like, that's true.
Like, I mean, there's all the Godzilla, like, mini monsters or whatever the hell they are.
I suppose.
Yeah, all the offshoots. The Servum is what they're called in promotional media. But yes, basically everything on the planet has adapted to not just mimic Godzilla's traits, but they are part of Godzilla in a way. Like, they all share DNA with Godzilla. Because somehow he has just become, like I said, the planet. Like, he rules the roost. And, of course, there are other factors going on. They discovered that there is a civilization that is living on Earth, kind of in the shadows, so to speak, sort of like how our mammalian ancestors lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs. And except these people are the Hotoa that's a really interesting aspect because they have potentially insect DNA, which suggests a connection to a certain winged goddess of peace that has contended with Godzilla a few times. So like you guys were saying, it's a really interesting alternate take on the Godzilla universe and mythos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they even do worship a god.
Well, I mean, there's talk of gods amongst the other alien races. I do love that the insect they worship. Like, odd that they chose Waspinator to depict on the. Or, I mean, that's the only person I can think of that comes to mind. I mean, alien like young female twins. Some giant big bug. I can't think of anything else.
No, there's nothing.
No. I mean, it was. I was going to say it was really weird that they chose Jeff Goldblum to be their deity, but anyway, because it's a Fly reference. I hate myself. Anyway,
no, I think it was a bold choice to choose Brendel Mothra. I think was interesting.
But, yeah, that's cute.
Now I want a commission of Brendel Mothra. That'd be fucking awesome.
Maybe get with me another con or something.
Yes. Oh man, that's gonna look great on the wall, on the Goldblum wall.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, Matt, I know you are a huge Godzilla fan.
I dabble.
Absolutely. I'm a little more casual. I love the older movies. I used to stay up and just watch, stuff on the Sci-Fi Channel or USA or whatever. They were having a marathon.
Or just go to Blockbuster.
Oh man, Blockbuster always had the best selection of
that was like their largest selection at Blockbuster was usually Godzilla films for some reason.
Sure. I actually remember watching one of the first Godzilla movies I were watching was the original Mechagodzilla versus Godzilla, which I don't remember a thing about it now because I don't think I've watched it since I was 5 years old. But
the old one I remember watching was the one that Rose Monster, actually.
The Rose Monster.
Yeah, that one.
Yes. Yeah. That's a cool design.
I maintain that Godzilla vs. Biollante has some of the best and most underappreciated effects work in Japanese cinema. I actually am of the opinion that Biollante herself looks like something that Rick Baker would have created. I mean, she's an incredible visual effect, but, because it's a Godzilla movie, people don't tend to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
and they're like, Godzilla movie? That's stupid.
So yeah, Travis, how much of the canon have you watched in particular?
I remember watching a lot of the movies as a kid, but I think I liked it mostly for the giant monsters.
Sure.
So as far as actual canon, not so up on it.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. We'll start off with the positive aspects about this film, because I actually think this film and the previous one are very interesting when it comes to Godzilla films, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, I don't think we've ever had a post-apocalypse Godzilla movie before, have we?
No, we haven't. They've almost, I believe, yes, all the Godzilla movies have taken place in whatever... I've maintained that Godzilla movies are something of a whatever Godzilla movie you're watching, you actually can get a pretty good idea of the socioeconomic state of modern Japan based on whichever movie you're watching.
Kind of like how whatever era of Spider-Man I'm reading, I know what we're afraid of at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it radiation or genetic sequencing? Yep. Okay, I got it. It's the 90s.
Sure. Which and that's very true. I think that if you were to watch the entire spectrum of Godzilla films, you would have a pretty good idea of what's going on culturally and socially in Japan at the time. A lot of people like to, for example, you can watch Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, and you can tell that, oh boy, we're deep in the green movement here. We're deep in the anti-pollution spectrum right now, and that's pretty cool. And then, or if you watch, people tend to malign this one a lot. Godzilla's Revenge is a very silly, very juvenile film. And it's basically about a little boy who Godzilla's not even technically in it. The Godzilla and the other monsters only exist in the little boy's imagination, and he's sort of and it sort of becomes like this. Oh, I'm learning about life lessons with my monster friends, but the film, if you watch it and you pay attention to the visuals and the directing and everything, you'll note that there's a weird bleakness to it. There's almost a kind of a despair running through the DNA of the film, and it's because the movie really was made with this mindset of how the Japanese nuclear family was being torn apart by industrialization. And how this little kid is essentially left alone all day. He's, in fact, for most of the film, until the very, very end of the film, he's never in the same shot with either of his parents.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's because Ishiro Honda is one of the great underappreciated directors of Japanese cinema, so much to the point that even Akira Kurosawa himself said, if Honda's directing it, it must be good.
Well, goddamn.
Yeah.
Also,
he and Honda were... What? So what's that?
I was like, I mean, that's a high compliment to be paid by someone so obviously respected. Also, goddamn, that is a depressing plot for a Godzilla.
It's a ludicrously silly film in the way it's written and the way the plot plays out. It sort of has a Home Alone vibe to it because it's like this little kid dealing with a pair of incompetent thieves. But like I said, there's this undercurrent in the visuals and the structure where you're like, they're living in Kawasaki City, which circa the 1960s, Kawasaki City was incredibly polluted and just a really bleak backdrop for this lighthearted children's story. So where he's going to go in his imagination to go hang out with baby Godzilla, and baby Godzilla talks like this, you know. And I trust me, if you don't stop me, I'll just keep going. So
you know what? As fascinated as I am by this, we should talk about the actual
the movie we're here to talk about
of the movie. But also, this one's kind of a downer too. Like things aren't going great for our heroes.
Well, you hire Genner Uebuchi, you're gonna get existential nightmares, and there's gonna be it's a lot of postmodern existential screaming. That's usually what Genner Uebuchi does best. But yes, things aren't going well. And I kind of appreciated that in this new movie. Now, one thing I was really concerned about was that in the previous, so we mentioned Haruo earlier, the main character. Mm-hmm. And he is got, like I said, chip looking for a shoulder.
Yep, he's definitely the anime main character of this film.
He is so, he is so pissed off at Godzilla and this whole vendetta thing that I think even Frank Castle would look at him and go, dude, tone it down.
Dial it back. Pump the brakes.
I know you're mad and everything, but come on, guy.
And the thing that I really appreciated about this movie, though, was that Haruo took an aggressive step back, and he was kind of forced to, and it's exactly what I was hoping for, which is that the first movie, he gets a lot of good people killed, and he's kind of going into this thing kind of half-cocked. He's got a really solid plan about how to kill Godzilla. It's based in science, and he studied the creature, he knows its nature, and they have a pretty good plan. The problem is that it doesn't really allow for any X factors. And I don't know, my point is that there's definitely an Ahab situation here, and Haruo needs to know whether or not he's going to go down that road, because the whole point of Moby Dick, spoilers for, 100-year-old novel or however old it is, Moby Dick doesn't end well for Captain Ahab. Because that's the whole thing. And so I was really concerned that they were going to do the anime thing where Haruo's anger was all going to be justified, and he was going to be seen as the hero regardless of what happens. And in this one, they really did a good job of him being like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing, and I could possibly just be getting everybody killed. And and of course, the film ends with a really interesting moral contradiction, sort of a moral fallacy that I thought was a really bold choice for them.
Sure, and we'll go into that one more in the spoiler section, I think.
Sure.
But Haruo is interesting to me because I think in the first film I had a little problem with the characters being a little flat.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot to them other than their one attribute that they give to them. Is like,
I'm angry.
Haruo's angry. The other guy's what's his name? A military gruff kind of leader dude. Scientist guy that may or may not want to fuck Haruo.
I think you might be getting your scientist guys mixed up. There was the professor who is the scientist guy. He's a little more fascinated in what's going on and about the monsters and the new changes the planet's gone under. You might be thinking of Metphys, the
religious guy.
The religious guy.
I'm mixing up my guess. Yes, it's the religious guy that wants to fuck Haruo.
Yeah.
Or are they already fucking? I don't know.
that is an interesting facet that gets brought up in this film. Not directly, but I feel like it's coded that way. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I would love to sit down. I'm actually Twitter friends with Hiroyuki Sashita, the co-director of the film, and we've exchanged a few messages. I'd really like to sit down with him and ask him, like, so are they coded as? I mean, they'd never. It's a mainstream Japanese film. They're not going to come right out and be like, yeah, they're super gay,
right? Never.
Not in a Japanese anime. So
barely in a US one.
This isn't Yuri on Ice, guys, which is a delightful show. I highly recommend it. But still, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, like you said, there's spoilers we can get into, but yeah, I really like the character of Metphies. I think there's a lot going on with that character, and I really want to know what's going on with him. But I do agree, the first movie, everybody's a little flat. And they're really focused on the world building.
Yeah, they have to set up a whole alternate universe.
Yeah, I guess that's their main goal here. Oh, also that brings me to my next point, to Sakura, who is the girl.
Yep, she certainly is.
That's about her character trait, right?
Yeah, she's Yuko, right?
Yuko?
I don't think her name is Sakura. I think she's just Yuko.
Maybe I'm mixing up with another character or actress here. I'm working off the wiki here for all these character names. To be honest, the only one I remember distinctly is Haruo, because I think 35% of the dialogue involves screaming his name. Mm-hmm. Someone screaming his name.
That's true.
You're not wrong.
I mean, I feel like this movie does a lot better of, especially with Haruo, he gets to go like, oh boy, it would have been different if my plan had really worked and we had killed the actual Godzilla and it was all like worth it in the end. But since a lot of people died and it didn't really amount to anything, it's kind of on me, because that's the risky run when you have a personal grudge, is that everything falls back on you.
Well, imagine also going back and being like, did you succeed? I killed a baby? You know what?
We killed the wrong one, and then I think we pissed the other one off, and that one is way bigger.
Yeah, that does not look good in a job report.
No.
I'll tell you what. Although I will give the spaceship guys credit. Everyone hanging in space, they're like, oh wait, this new Godzilla, his energy beam can actually shoot into space.
Yeah, he could probably hit us.
So me and Travis both looked at each other and were like, oh yeah, we would fuck off immediately. Oh, yeah. We would definitely leave all these people here.
Or maybe guys, retreat to the moon and just kind of hang out there for a bit.
Or on the other side of the planet, or I don't know, somewhere else.
A little bit farther out.
I guess they want to stay in touch with the ground crew. And they want to
give them, like, what is it, 24 hours or something, or 48 hours to...
Yeah, they gave them a time frame before they were going to fuck off. But,
which is way more generous than I would be in that scenario.
Yeah. I mean, they literally are talking about how if Godzilla notices us, he could blow us out of the sky.
Yeah, and they mentioned, like, in no uncertain terms that, like, if he even, like, sneezes in our direction, we're screwed. Okay, like, it's over for us.
Well, that's the thing I really liked about this new Godzilla, is that he actually has at least one new power that I thought was neat, which is he's so big that him just roaring creates a shockwave and can blow up whatever, like he blows up part of that fleet just by roaring at it in the previous movie.
Before even the laser breath comes out.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just, it was a nice little detail, but, I'm in agreement though. I think that the first movie, is a little weaker. And one thing I do have to preface is that a lot of Godzilla fans hate these movies.
Well, I'm not overly surprised.
I can kind of see why, because when you have a movie called Planet of Monsters, and then this film also teases Mothra and King Ghidorah at some point, and it never, like, and maybe they're saving a big monster brawl for 3, although I feel like with the way these movies are going, I think we will see these creatures fight, but not in the way that you think they're gonna. Like, I feel like we're gonna get what they did with Mechagodzilla, like the sentient city. They'll probably do something like that. for Ghidorah or whatever the hell.
Yeah, Ghidorah will come down, and then Mothra will come out at like the very end to kind of like restore peace or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm both like excited for and also kind of dreading because, okay, so I've seen Godzilla fight Mechagodzilla 5 times. That's how many times Godzilla has fought Mechagodzilla. And I don't know, I liked that wasn't the focus of this. But unfortunately, a lot of fans were really frustrated that there was a fair amount of promotion for this film that did involve Mechagodzilla. They even made a new premium Bandai figure of not the city, obviously, but it's like if Mechagodzilla was completed. So it's like it looks like a little Mechagodzilla. I mean, it looks a little different from previous Mechagodzillas. It's got this weird kind of insectoid face, and it's very obviously made by aliens, like made by people who aren't human.
Sure.
Which is the whole idea. But a lot of fans were really upset because they felt that they were like, oh, so they lied to us. They lied to us in the marketing. And I'm like, no, not really. But they didn't really, I don't know, like, I think that's just what people were hoping for, was that there's because there's kind of a reductionist attitude in a lot of the fandom that Godzilla has to fight another monster, and that's not really what these movies are about.
No,
I mean, I feel like I would be more excited if because I like, we haven't seen Godzilla bust some people in an animated format. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that I don't like about this film, and I don't like about most of the films animated this way, is that 3D animation does not excite me in any way, shape, or form. I'll tell you what, I like what they did here because they make Godzilla so big and lumbering and like this giant like mountain, like a moving mountain of a creature, and the weight comes off of it even in this 3D model, and he doesn't have to move that much. So
sure.
There's limited animation, and it just feels good. Otherwise, like the animation's here pretty good. They spent money on it.
Yeah, I mean, they actually did try for the 3D animation.
And I didn't hate it, but it's not my preferred method of animation.
Sure.
Yeah, I just this is why I couldn't watch the new Ninja Turtles series, the 3D animated one, because I didn't like that. Or Beware the Batman or the Green Lantern is just like, I don't...
Batman Ninja.
Batman Ninja. Batman Ninja is its own whole...
I love Batman Ninja.
Okay, that's a whole other thing that we can't go into right now.
Oh, it's not good.
No, it is not.
Oh, boy. But, so I think that they made some real smart decisions with, like, with this animated style. I think the story decisions they do make, considering making Mechagodzilla a city to draw from, doing the Gundam-style robots to go with, which are actually look better in 3D.
Yeah.
Because they look like kind of like a 3D model of like of like even someone's toy Gundam, kind of. But like a real-life model, like, sort of thing. Like, there's... Like, they did the best 3D animated film that they could make out of this, I think. It's just that I don't... I feel like that 3D animation style is so limited and still herky-jerky of, like, just its overall feel of,
we've
like...
had, like, how many years to perfect 2D animation?
Right, and I get that we need to experiment more with so that 3D animation can get to the same level, but I don't think it's quite there yet. But, I don't know,
Sure.
Do you feel differently, Matt?
I'm of a few different minds on this. I feel that I actually can tell pretty much right off the bat that these are actually extremely cheap movies. They clearly had an extremely limited budget, and they pushed that budget as far as they can, because there are some really impressive visuals in this one, which is what they clearly saved their money for. But the films are just their character models are very limited. They clearly only have a very small handful of unique character models for the humanoid characters, and then Godzilla himself, I think, is where they spent the majority of their money. I'm always going to prefer 2D animated stuff. I would have loved to have seen like a cool 2D animated hand-drawn Godzilla movie, but there's kind of a reason why kaiju are actually very rare in anime, because they're ostensibly supposed to be much more detailed, and I don't know. There's a lot of cultural nuance that we're not getting because we're not Japanese, and so one thing I try to explain to a lot of people is that there's a reason why we haven't had a Godzilla anime until now, a proper Godzilla anime, and that's because I feel like if you were to ask a Japanese person, they would probably say, "Well, we've already got the movies. Why do that? But again." But again, just in a different style. Like, that doesn't... I think it's what a lot of people were hoping for, because they were basically just hoping for, like, an animated version of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
And sorry, guys, we cut out there from Matt for a hot second. We had a kaiju battle mess up our phone lines for a minute. But don't worry.
We're in a secret bunker now.
Don't worry. Gamera got on that shit. So
Gamera knows what's up. He's a friend of children. He's the guardian of the universe.
He's our tech guy as well. Real handy.
He's better than most ones we have.
Yeah. But,
he's in there working.
Matt, you were in the middle of a thought. You were saying?
Well, I was really just talking about anime as a medium, because a lot of Godzilla fans were really hoping that this was going to be like that if once we were getting a Godzilla anime, that it was going to be like an animated version of what we've already seen. And I think the Japanese have a different perspective on that, in that they're like, well, why would we make an animated version of this franchise if we didn't have something new to say and tried a new perspective on it? I don't agree that it's I don't think that it's 100% successful, as I think it's going to be looked back on as a really interesting experiment. But anyway, I don't know. But I still appreciated it, and I don't know. I like it. That was really all I was saying was that the Japanese just have a different perspective on adaptations than we do. Although that perspective is starting to change, obviously, because we have an animated Godzilla now, and we have all these live action adaptations of anime now,
right?
Which kind of,
whether we need those or not.
Yeah, they're kind of being met with almost universal disdain, though I think that has more to do with the anime fan culture than it does with the actual quality of the films themselves. There was a lot of negative press surrounding the Attack on Titan movies, for example, but I really honestly think that was because, and nearly every complaint I've seen usually comes down to they changed it from the anime. They changed this, they changed that.
Right, even it's not 100% adaptation.
Well, even in the reviews I've seen, they'll say, well, you know, it's not that they'll even say, like, it's not that it's changed, it's that the changes are all bad. And then when they go into detail about why the changes are bad, they just keep referencing back to the original anime, and that's as far as it goes. I personally think the Attack on Titan movies are a really good example of the Spielbergian type of adaptation, like from Jaws or Jurassic Park, where you take the source material and you shuffle it around so that it works in the context of a film, as opposed to a book or a TV series. But anyway, that's just my perspective. So yeah.
All right, well, we have been talking about this film for a while. I think we can go into our final thoughts and ratings over here.
Well, we've been talking about Godzilla in general for a while, more than this actual film.
Well, I think the problem... well, you know what? Why don't I go into my thoughts there for that? Because I will address that in my initial rating.
That's fine.
I feel like what I was saying is that we spent a lot of time talking about other Godzilla films, is that while the subject matter for this film is very interesting, the apocalypse, post-apocalypse setting is cool. The setups and the subverting of our expectations in regard to some of the monsters is pretty neat. And the Godzilla in this one is kind of like a foil Godzilla in some of his previous films, where he is much more of the
villain of the piece.
He's not even a villain. He's much more of just a force to be reckoned with. He almost doesn't really have much of a personality in way of like an actual character. But and that's all fine and good. I think the reason that we didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about, say, the characters of this film is that even though they are improved from the first one, they get a little bit more to them. Some are still very much their stereotypical, just they're there to fulfill their role and their type. Haruo comes off the best in having an actual arc. And the characters themselves just are a little more dry, and like Matt was saying, they had limited. The moments that they do stretch their budget are pretty cool, but the moments in between is a lot of sitting around and talking about possibilities and what we might do and where, like, should we evacuate? What should we do? Should we do this? What's all this? And it would be better if I liked these characters more. And it's not like I hate them. I just
don't feel much about them one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But yeah, that's basically my analysis of it. So for me, I enjoyed it enough to give it a 3 Supernova Godzillas out of 5, which is another cool ability he gets in this one, where she like becomes Godzilla Star, which is awesome.
Yeah, he's like a collapsed sun, and I think that's pretty cool. That's a cool, interesting little twist. But yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty rad. But I also like the Gundam battles. Like just where
they were fun.
But so yeah, as far as if you are a Godzilla fan, kind of hard to tell if I should recommend this to you or not, because it kind of depends on what type of Godzilla fan you are. Like, I mean, for people like Matt who are just like, have seen them all and be like, hey, just anything, and you might appreciate the new take they take on this, because it's not like any Godzilla film I've seen before, that's for sure, and I'll give it that. But as far as if you're here to see a beat 'em up, or you were disappointed from the Gareth Edwards Godzilla, if there wasn't enough monster fighting in that one for you, I don't think this one's for you. So, nope. I mean, I guess like just if you it's not that hard. If you feel like just as we've been talking, you feel like I do want to see that movie, it's probably for you. If you feel like that sounds boring, not for you. So, sure. I think that's how I'm going to come at it. Travis, what did you think overall?
I thought it was pretty okay. I think my biggest problem with this narrative in this universe is that they keep going like, it's almost they're making the characters into like a space opera, where it's like, we've got all these different aliens that came down and all these different characters. I'm like, yeah, but whoever cared about the human characters in a Godzilla film?
Well, some of them actually have some pretty interesting characters in them. Yeah, surprisingly.
I'm going to aggressively push back on that. It's not a universal thing. Granted, I'm going to guess that, Travis, you haven't seen a Godzilla movie in a long time.
No, I have not.
Yeah.
Not any of the older ones in a long time. I've watched the newer ones.
Right. I feel like that's I don't want to cut you off in the middle of your critique. I'm just going to say that that's a narrative that people like to push because it's funny to say.
Fair enough.
And it's not really based in reality. Some of my favorite. I think that it's something that get overlooked a lot, because I think in some of the classic, more universally beloved Godzilla films, they actually have a lot of really good characters in them. But sorry,
the original Godzilla, the original scientist in that one, whose name is escaping me, Yes, I think he's an awesome character of like he's like a he's like a Frankenstein creator if Frankenstein made a giant nuclear monster rather than just played God with the Dead. He's like, ooh, I made an oopsie on a much grander scale. I really need to fix this.
You're killing me, because you're professing that you like the character, but you got his motivation wrong entirely. I'm sorry. I don't want to sit here and just nitpick y'all's
it has been
reviews.
a while, so I may not be remembering this right.
Well, I have a list of movies that I like to recommend to people from the Godzilla series. So, like, if you want like a nice cross section of the franchise, of like the highlights of the franchise, there's maybe only about 7 to 10 movies to see. and they're not very long either. But anyway, but yeah, you are right though. That original movie especially has a lot of really great actors in it and an excellent human story. But you're right. I think the franchise sort of garnered a reputation for the human characters kind of being not that interesting, because it is unfortunate, because there is a majority of the films are kind of just, I don't want to call them pablum Drek, because they're not, but they are like, like, who cares? Let's get to the monsters. But anyway, I'm so sorry. Please continue, Travis.
Okay. What I remember liking a lot about the older movies especially is that they had this kind of like unique mix of like, oh sure, it's like, it is sci-fi. You got monsters with made through either space magic or science. But you also had this like little bit of mysticism going on in between, like Mothra being like a guardian of the Earth, and like some of these creatures being around on Earth for like thousands of years.
Oh, sure. I mean, King Ghidorah actually traveled in time one time, I think.
Yeah. And it's all this kind of weird mix there that I feel they're trying to do in this series with like the different aliens and stuff, like one being really religious and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like it's just falling a little flat for me. I almost feel like this would have been better as like a mini series rather than like 3 movies. Have a little bit more time to actually try fleshing out this world.
Oh, you mean like an actual show? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, even just a limited run one, like maybe a couple more episodes, instead of just like these hour-long movies or whatever they are.
You think it might break up the pacing a little different?
Yeah. Maybe even give the characters a little bit more time to breathe, get a little bit more personality. As it is, though, it's still not bad. The visuals are pretty good when they do spend the time to do them right. They don't spend a whole lot of time with the other characters who aren't Haru anyway, so it's kind of like, so they don't have a lot of personality, you don't have to deal with it for very long. Overall, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Like, not bad. Hopefully they give me just a little bit more in the next film, though.
Maybe they're saving the best for last for you. Matt, you are the expert here. What is your expert opinion?
I mean, basically, what you guys went through is the experience of watching me on the Shin Godzilla Blu-ray. There's a special features where I'm in a roundtable discussion, and if you ever wanted to watch half an hour of Matt struggle not to talk over people, that's that experience. So like I said, I apologize for, being like, the expanded universe.
That's what we brought you on for, Matt.
No, we're pretty used to that when we bring on experts.
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate that. You guys are pretty easygoing, and I like that. We've already touched on it a fair bit, but just to reiterate, I think it's really nice that we're getting aggressive reinterpretations of this genre, because it's a genre that's needed a lot of life pumped into it. Shin Godzilla from 2016 was something that the franchise badly needed. They really needed a shot in the arm to make that into to bring it into the modern age, and they are doing something really interesting, which is where they're hiring these auteur filmmakers, people who have a lot of clout to their names. So you get somebody like Hideaki Anno, the creator of Evangelion, to do Shin Godzilla. You're going to get a weird, different kind of Godzilla. And that also tracks with Gen Urobuchi and the Knights of Sidonia Polygon team for these animated films. Now, whether or not, as I said, whether or not they're 100% successful, I'm not really sure about that. I think, like you said, these films really could benefit from being broken up into a proper miniseries. I think a nice 10-episode series could have been really good for this. But that's not the way they wanted to do it, because Toho wants to maximize their exposure of Godzilla in between these legendary films. So they wanted to do this while we were waiting for Godzilla King of the Monsters to come out next year.
Right.
Now, that being said, I think it's a really interesting take on the character. I think that it's kind of neat, and I find it personally compelling that it's sort of this space opera, kind of a little bit of Godzilla meets Mass Effect meets Star Trek, where it's all this high level hard sci-fi, and maybe a little more Mass Effect because it's a little more. There's a little more emotionality going on, even though it's mostly focused around the main character. But I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the next one. Some people have taken screenshots of the poster for the third movie and have zoomed in on it, and it's like, oh, you can really kind of get a feeling for what Ghidorah is going to look like.
Oh, okay.
And if it's anything like the poster, he's very alien, very not strictly a giant 3-headed Asian space dragon. Anyway, I mean, I've rambled long enough. I like it. I like it. My wife really liked it too. I think these are really interesting Godzilla movies for sci-fi buffs and people who are not as familiar with the genre and are looking for something that's not just Monster A versus Monster B.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the rating I've given it in the past is about 7 out of 10, and I feel like that tracks pretty well. I think it's got a raw, really interesting ideas, but I think ultimately it's going to be looked back on as just a really interesting experiment. And we'll see what the future brings. But yeah. I liked it. Oh, I like it. Oh, all right. Had a big lizard in it. But yeah, I don't also need like a ton of Godzilla in my movie. I just want the movie overall to be interesting, which I think was the problem with Godzilla 2014, where you have this really, really great opening act, and then you have like an hour or so of not caring about Aaron Taylor Johnson and his dumb, boring family.
I feel like when Bryan Cranston dies in that movie,
we all die.
It personifies my interest in the story of oh no.
Well, that's pretty much everybody. I mean, I think the final battle is really good and really well made.
That final battle, it kicks ass. Mm-hmm. I don't care what anybody says. That final battle, like that final 30 minutes, is like the stuff dreams are made of. Like that shit rocks. Yeah.
It's definitely kind of a dream realized to see a Godzilla fight with that much budget put behind it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really, I mean, obviously Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to definitely build on that. And then it's going to be really interesting to see what happens after that. Because Toho has expressed strong interest in creating a new series of films, not strictly Godzilla movies, but sort of an expanded universe of like, maybe they'll make a Mothra movie, maybe they'll make a Rodan movie.
Pretty interesting.
So it's going to be really interesting to see where they go from here. Now, honestly, I think that not building on Shin Godzilla is kind of a mistake because that movie is extremely popular and Hideaki Anno is an extremely popular director, and I think that not building on that would be a misstep. And I think they're overestimating the strength of the Godzilla brand. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, this was fun. I had fun I always have fun getting a yammer about Godzilla. So.
Of course, and thank you for joining us, Matt, and schooling us noobs in the ways of kaiju. We are honored by your presence, senpai. I think.
Don't say that. No, I appreciate that. If you guys or if anybody listening wants to take a quick refresher course on Godzilla, I can give that list real quick.
Oh sure. Oh, also mention your Giganticast that you're on. Yeah, definitely
you can listen to me aggressively infrequently on the Giganticast at over on oneofus.net. It's just it's basically the Matt Frank show. I just yell about whatever I want to talk about that week. Typically, whenever it's something kaiju related comes out. But I've done some episodes on Power Rangers and an episode on Monster Hunter recently. I'm going to be launching something new here pretty soon called Disaster Quest. Keep an eye open for that. That's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. Can't really say what it is yet. And you can also read me over on RageSelect.com. Otherwise, if you just Google my name and just tack Godzilla on the end of it, you'll find my art pretty quick. But yeah, so real quick, what I recommend is go watch the original Godzilla, Gojira. Mm-hmm. Criterion has a great Blu-ray of that, and it has both versions of the movie, American and Japanese. Then you'll want to watch there's basically the big four trilogy, as some people like to call it, which is Mothra vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and Monster Zero. Those are the three from the 60s that sort of make up the beating core of the Godzilla franchise. Like that's when Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan are all sort of brought into the fold in those movies. And King Ghidorah, obviously. And then I recommend Godzilla vs. Biollante if you want to get like a cool late 80s, early 90s cyberpunk vibe to a Godzilla movie with some really great special effects. Then for the Millennium movies, you'll want to see Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, which is a great title.
Yeah, that is leaving it all on the table with a title like that. I love it.
I mean, yeah, totally. That one also has Mothra and Ghidorah in it, and it has a little puppy dog monster, Baragon. And that's my personal favorite Godzilla movie because, again, it's one of those auteur directors that they got who really knows how to make a statement and actually say something. It's not just a standard Godzilla movie. And then if you want something that's just friggin' stupid, like really stupid, you go watch Godzilla Final Wars.
Godzilla Final Wars.
It's very brutally silly. So
they blew up the 1998 Godzilla in that one.
he does. That's true. And you get a lot of monsters. You get a lot of kung fu. There's the 1998 Godzilla. That's fine. Yeah. So that's Matt's short list. I mean, there's obviously way more. There's like 33 Godzilla movies, and then there's a ton of other Toho kaiju movies that are still in that universe, like the original Rodan, the original Mothra, Frankenstein Conquers the World, War of the Gargantuas. Those are all classics in their own right. But if you just want like a nice pastiche of the Godzilla franchise, those movies are the ones to watch.
Mm-hmm. I also like, it's also, again, been a while since I watched it, but the second Godzilla movie I ever watched was Godzilla 2000.
Oh, yeah.
And the only thing I remember from that one is that it has an awesome ending sequence where this guy, like, I think either the main antagonist or one of the main characters goes up on a building and just says, "Fuck you, Godzilla." and Godzilla wipes him. And I always remember the look on his face like, "Godzilla!"
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Godzilla!"
Yeah,
that movie's silly.
But yes, thank you for the rundown, Matt, and I will put those on the list there. I'm going to make sure to watch Final Wars again for sure. It's definitely going to go on the rotation.
Really, I really recommend watching Giant Monsters All Out Attack, though. It's modern special effects, or modern-ish for the genre, and
I think I've watched that one too.
Just really damn good. I think it's really well made, and really kind of pay attention to the satire it's going. It's very satirical as well. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Matt, for joining us. If you would like to check out some of our previous catalog on Netflix and Kill, listeners, you can always go back to our back catalog on the UGO podcast on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review while you're there. Let us know if you want us to bring Matt back on for number 3, if that would be interesting to you. You know what? Fuck it. I don't care what you want. We're definitely bringing Matt on for number 3. This was too much fun to be talking with Matt. Matt, we're bringing you on. Like,
all right, cool.
That's what's happening. So there you go, listeners. Real dictatorship going on in this podcast. But, yeah, unless anyone else has anything last-minute stuff they want to mention? Nope.
Let's go watch some Godzilla, I guess.
Cool. Yes. Go watch some kaiju battles. All right. See you guys next time. We're Unapologists Freak Out, and we're out.